Welcome to Stepping Into Ourselves, a gathering of priestesses. This is our 10th edition, and we are graced this evening with H.D. Artemis, who's also named as Heather, and who's also named Storm. We're going to go with the Heather tonight, I think. And in addition with her, we have the incredibly colorful and incredibly brilliant Rabbi Reb Rayzel Raphael, who I understand is Ruth Barrett's cousin.
That's right.
And Ruth was on Monday night and gave us an incredible show that people are still emailing me and telling me how fabulous it was and how they can't imagine how I can keep topping it. But you see, I know you can. So I want to welcome you all and let you know that if I look a little tired and worn out tonight, it's because I've spent the last 3 days in a class learning how to create membership sites. And they went from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. I did leave and come and do the Monday night show. And I came home at about 4 o'clock this afternoon, and I collapsed for an hour, and then I got up and am now doing the show. So not exactly at my perkiest or at my most beautiful, so please forgive me. I have to give a quote here to our Stepping Into Ourselves. It's the anthology that we are basing this on, where it's an anthology of writings on priestesses. And it is by Goddess Inc. is the publisher, and that is available at goddess-inc.com. And for all of you who are listening, you do get a 15% discount if you put in the bonus code SUMMER2014 for a bonus code. You'll get a 15% off price. And I do request that you buy it from Goddess Inc., not from Amazon, because these ladies have put a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of trees into this book. I mean, this thing weighs about 1.5 pounds. If you just use it as a book weight, it's going to be, effective. And it's fabulous. It's incredible. There are writings in here from women that are no longer with us. There are writings with women who were not able to be on the telesummit because they're so busy they have no time. And the writings of all these lovely ladies that you see before you. So I just want you to know that this is truly a work of art. And it's available in ebook, and it's also available in print. So if you're out of the country, you can order the ebook, and you also get the 15% discount on that. So welcome, ladies, and I want to welcome you always with the question we start with: what made you go down the path of being a priestess? And Heather, I'm going to let you start.
Okay, great. Thanks. First, I wanted to say on the record and on video how grateful I am that you are hosting this telesummit for priestesses and the women that have contributed to the book Stepping Into Ourselves. We all recognize how important it is for us to connect, and I for one, am truly honored to be a part of it, and also really want to offer my blessings to you for the work that you've done to pull this together, and really have been enjoying this summer school for priestesses. I've really gotten behind that and tried to capture all of them and look forward to the rest of them. So thank you for this. This is new and unique, and we're heading in this direction in terms of, social media, online stuff. Seems to be the wave of the future. And I just want to thank you again for this opportunity for all of us, to bring all of us together. For myself, in terms of priestessing, I would probably say that I was born into it. I have to say that just looking back on my history and my legacy of my family, I was born smack dab in the middle of 1965, June 20th, on the edge of summer solstice, in Ocean Beach, California, for any of you Southern Californians, right in the middle of the hippie beginnings and revolution that was happening there. My parents were both very interested in participating in that, and I had a lot of opportunity to learn different ways of being, and so that began my journey. I was exposed to a lot of different things, both good and bad. I mean, that culture, being a child in that environment, wasn't always easy, but I did have some exposure to certain things. For instance, well, my mother had a lot of different books on her bookshelves. One of them was Doreen Valente's, a book of Doreen Valente's on magic and nature. I found that exploring the bookshelf at 8 or 9 years old. There was a lot of other things on the bookshelf as well, some inappropriate for children. But another one was the book about the magic of Findhorn, David Spangler and company, those folks, and just reading through that and discovering that there are other ways of living and other spiritual values. My mother was very, my mother would say that she was a hedonist. My father was an existentialist. They met, and you know, it was the 60s and 70s, right? So I got a chance to get something that was outside some, you know, dominant culture in terms of spiritual values. My mother was an armchair feminist, really preached to my sister and I that, you know, women had a special place, always called the uterus the womb, would call, you know, Christmas time, Yule time. We celebrated May Day. We made May baskets and went a-maying. She bought us, you know, old chants and things to us. So I had an early exposure to this. But, you know, I also spent a great deal of time with my grandmother, and Gloria, you and I have a background in Oklahoma Baptist, you know, culture. My dad's side of the family is from Oklahoma. My grandmother was very, you know, Calvary Baptist, and, you know, they tried to get me, but I escaped that, and was able to just begin, you know, understanding women's experiences and women's spiritual values. In the 3rd grade, we were assigned for the first time, you know, an essay on biographies that I chose of my own volition, Joan of Arc, and experienced her, you know, lessons and her trials. I really identified with her. I really feel like I brought spirit into my life with me and have been blessed, you know, very much. But it's not been easy. I had a Persephone time very early in my childhood, you know, and had some really, really dark times, you know, very grateful to have survived my childhood and adolescence. And in those dark times, I met a woman who is, you know, became to be a spiritual older sister to me. She had very much a Hecate orientation, archetype in her and walking in her. And she, must have been 18 or 19 years old, and she took me under wing, really, and gave me 3 books to read. One was Margot Adler's Drawing Down the Moon, which really helped me understand philosophies behind paganism and witchcraft. Also, Starhawk's Spiral Dance, and of course, I was very much into science fiction, so Marion Zimmer Bradley's The Miss of Avalon. So those were very early influences on me in terms of books. She was the one that we went together to my first circle, Coven Circle. It was an advertised back in the day, you know, Dianic witches were organizing, you know, and making circles, and we went to a circle for the first time together. A woman named Isla Suzanne in San Diego was hosting a coven, and she was from the Z Budapest line. She had, you know,
the broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
The Z, and was carrying that forward. And we circled with her for years. I was initiated as a priestess in that coven. She eventually moved on, and I inherited it as the high priestess, and we circled together with women in San Diego for years. I eventually moved to New York, which is where I am now, about 20 years ago, and I do not, haven't really participated in a formal circle environment, but I participate in all types of pagan, Wiccan, spiritual endeavors now, you know, around the country here in New York. You know, I can bring us current, you know, if we want to, you know, talk about that in a little while, but that was sort of the beginning of my path, so just to give you an understanding. I did study the sciences and psychology in undergrad. I went to UCSD. Neurosciences were a big thing in the 90s. I got a degree in psychology, research psychology. Have undergone Jungian therapy for many years. There's many things that have informed my spiritual path. But I'm on it. We'll be happy to talk about it, but that was sort of the beginning of it. So.
Okay, well, thank you. And before you speak, Rabbi Rayzel, I want to read something that she has on her email, because I think this is just so appropriate for what we're doing right now. She has the Internet Kavanah 5774. As I grow my abilities to keep up with email, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the myriad of other ways to stay connected, help me remember it is through the heart that all true bonds form. Oh, great Creator, as we manifest new realities with our fingertips and computer screens, guide me to do it with love and to remember to unplug occasionally. Grant serenity to those who do not hear back from me for a day or two. Bless all with love, light, and discernment to hit delete when necessary. Amen.
You know, I haven't heard anybody read my own words back to me. And if you've, those internet prayers, kavanahs, is an intention. Mm-hmm. And if you've seen them evolve over mine evolve over the years, they get a little more desperate. Help me keep up with it. Help, you know, that as we're adjusting to technology in our lives, you know, the prayers are reflective of that too. So thank you, Gloria. And I also have to go on record as saying I am in awe of your Telesummit priestessing abilities, and I want to learn at your feet. So thank you very much. So what was the question?
The question is, what caused you, in your case, to take the path of a priestess or the path of a rabbi even? I mean, that's somewhat two different ways, or at least it has been up until recently.
Right. Well, so the story is very different from Artemis. I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, to a fairly traditional Jewish family. My grandfather was the rabbi of the town. My grandmother was the butcher, the kosher butcher. And I grew up in a really loving family, but the combination of Southern society and Jewish, where, you know, both of which don't value females over the males, right? Mm-hmm. So the combination of that, you know, impacted me, that I've spent my whole life trying to come to terms with it and fix it and transform it and just evolve to who I am. I was given the name Randall Fain. Randall is a boy's name. I was called Randy growing up, and it wasn't so becoming. I'm now, you know, Rabbi Rayzel or Yigdal Rayzel Raphael. The process of becoming, changing the names, is all part of the journey to discover, you know, the feminine side, myself, my inside, what path I'm walking. I was always a spiritual kid, but after I had my bat mitzvah, there was no voice for young women in the tradition. And it wasn't until I went away to college, it was the early 70s, and I did an independent study on women in Judaism with another friend of mine, Rabbi, who's now a rabbi, Rabbi Valerie Joseph. She also became a rabbi later in life. And we were discovering, what does this mean, Judaism and feminism? Could we reconcile it? Then at some point along the way, and again, it was an academic question at that, you know, I was just trying to figure out, would those two things blend, or what was the synergy between them? Fast forward a little bit, about 10 years after my bat mitzvah, I was in a women's minyan, which is a prayer group in Boston at graduate school, and I was asked to lead. And I realized I had not led a service since my own bat mitzvah. So in that circle of women, I found my voice. Okay? So I'm giving you these highlights as sort of, you know, what were the pieces that I had to recover about myself as the whole journey began. I think, though, officially, again, in the late 70s, there was an article published by a woman named Arlene Agus about celebrating Rosh Chodesh, which means new moon. And that article actually spawned women to create new moon groups, Jewish women to create new moon groups. And in that Rosh Chodesh group that I then sort of took on as a spiritual practice, it became the lab for my spirituality and that circle of women. And I can actually say that it's through that exploration with those circles of women wherever I was, in Toronto, Canada, in Jerusalem, you know, that is the path that led me to rabbinical school. Feeling empowered enough to go to rabbinical school in my mid-30s, which brought me to Philadelphia. Again, there was no such thing as a Jewish priestess, and I think if you look at even some of the other people you've had on the panels, from Starhawk to Ruth Barrett to you know, and many other Jewish women who did not have the path. The only path to be an empowered woman was through the rabbinate, which is really a male tradition. It is changing now, okay, but we've still got a long way to go, and it's only been the last 40 years that there were rabbis, women rabbis. There's actually a mission this month to bestow rabbinical ordination on a woman named Regina Jonas, who died in one of the concentration camps. They're going to go back, a group of the original women rabbis who were ordained in all the movements are going back to Prague and Germany to give her rabbinic ordination because there just weren't women rabbis. Okay, so we find I'm a woman rabbi, but again, my journey into Judaism has always been that integration, or even the fusion or the tension or whatever you want to call it, the intersection of Judaism and feminism. And that has been my muse, that has been my path, and that has been what I've been exploring. It's just, and at some point after rabbinical school, when even though internally I knew I was a priestess, I couldn't quite stand up and get a job as a priestess. I had to just begin to embody it and own it as this is what I am. And so it was more a process of becoming rather than, and resisting, you know, resisting what I was supposed to be, that it led me to who I am today. It's fighting through all the layers of not being able to be this. And then I see Jill Hammer, she's created a school for priestesses. You know, that would have been on my wish list. I would have loved to create a school for priestesses. You know, God has given me other things to do. So that's why I'm here today. And I also want to say, I have some, you know, through the program, I'd also like to sing, because I feel like our work, you know, is art and music's kind of my voice more than the words are. So if it feels appropriate when we get to a place that is, you know, the words of my songs can speak to your questions more, I'm going to want to sing a little bit.
Well, that's fine with me. However you feel like answering is totally all right. What I know is this is a divinely guided show, and that we will make news doing it. And I hear you, and I hear both of you, and you know, I love Ocean Beach, OB as we call it down here, which has its issues.
That's right.
But it is a place that
my home, you know, it's home, and you know, I got a lot out of that environment. You know, one of the you know, I am ordained in both the Dianic and the Green traditions, and you know, I was there just this weekend, and I am, you know, gravely concerned about the land. You know, growing up out there, you know, when I was a child, we still had to be on the lookout for cougar and bobcat and, you know, snakes, and of course the overdevelopment that has happened in that area and the lack of water is an issue for me as a priestess of the land. You know, that's one of the concerns that I have, and you know, I work on that. You know, a lot of social activism, you know, is a part of my priestessing, and you know, you know, all of us collectively have to continue to address some of the imbalances, you know, that are happening in nature.
Yeah, the reason I was mentioning that is because Ocean Beach has it has become an area where, I mean, I got to admit, if I were homeless, I'd move to San Diego. but Ocean Beach has, you know, you can't beat the weather here. It has become an area where the homeless have ended up as a major issue in Ocean Beach. And it's also an area which is still sort of the hippie neighborhood. And there's a lot of people that have been there for 50 years, and there's a lot of people that have been there for, 6 weeks. But there's a certain transient population that goes through there. And it is in an area which is sort of isolated from San Diego. So, I mean, you have to be going to Ocean Beach to go there. It's not like you go to Ocean Beach on the way to anything else except Point Loma. And one of the things that I noticed about it is that it's an incredible community. There's a lot of towns these days where it doesn't seem like people know each other. And even though Ocean Beach has, as I said, they have issues with the homeless, they have issues with drugs, they have issues with other things that are going on there, they still have a sense of community, which is that the people who are in the stores know who the people in the streets are, they know who their shoppers are. The librarian, whenever I used to go to the librarian there, after the first time, she always greeted me by name. And it was like there was a feeling that it was like you were there because you chose to be there. And a lot of areas, a lot of the places, I've lived so many places. I've had over 84 homes that I've lived in. I have lived in 48 states.
Gloria.
I am a gypsy.
Yeah, I just want to interject because I can really relate to having been moved around a lot as a child and coming up. I also, understand that we have a lot of spiritual problems in our society right now. Most people do not choose to be homeless.
No.
There are underlying issues, that are going on. Racism and classism and, economic slavery is, something that we are dealing with, but no one's really talking about some of these issues in the fact that it's a, spiritual malady. That is one, of my beliefs is, how we treat each other. One of the, I'm sure you're encountering the backlash and the crisis about, children fleeing their homes, right? And as someone who grew up in an unsafe environment often, I can really relate. And, we have a spiritual bankruptcy that's happening, with people thinking that, whatever they're thinking about, illegals. It's all how we frame things, right? Illegals and all, whatever. But I really want to bring it back to, women's ways of being, which is something that, as a Dianic priestess, I really focus on a lot about how women are and how we learn to feed our children and also to tend community. And, it's troublesome to me as a priestess, as a witch and a feminist priestess, that we live in such a death culture and, the anti-female pornographized world that we live in. I mean, that's, part of what I have to deal with as a priestess, and it comes out a lot in my work, my response to that. So,
well, that's where I was going with this, is that in a way, as priestesses, and the reason I was using Ocean Beach is because I've lived there. I've only been in Philadelphia when I had a child, so I haven't spent much time there. But in a way, the community, even though the community in Ocean Beach has problems, they still are a community. They still see themselves as a community. They still relate to one another as a community. They relate to the homeless. They relate to the other issues as a community. And I think that is one of the things that as priestesses, we look for community, and we look for how we can form community. And I think one of the issues that I'm getting from the emails I'm getting and from the Skype messages and what have you I'm getting from all over the world is that we have a number of women out there who are looking desperately for community. And the reason I was going with this is because I know that you're involved with community and also with people's rights. And I know that as a rabbi, Rayzel's also dealing with some of those issues, just as part of her natural, you have to deal with them. You are part of a community, and you are seen as, the head of that community. And as priestesses, we have kind of taken a back seat. We're the priestesses of these communities that are out here in the woods, dancing in the woods maybe, but most of us haven't stepped forward and said, I'm a priestess, and it's important. I mean, Starhawk has. I honor her absolutely. I was there whenever she went to jail with her community in Seattle against the World Trade Organization. And at the same time, I know other people who are fleeing the area. But part of who we are is to form and create community for ourselves and for others. And part of it is that holding that container of community. I mean, Ruth talked about the idea that whenever she welcomes somebody into the priestesshood, she gives them an ice scraper, because they are the ones that get to scrape the candle wax off the floor. But, it's more than that. It's more than the one who does the scut work. It's more than that. And I think that you two have the ability to discuss this issue, is how do we form community? Particularly, how do we form community whenever we're in somewhere we don't know where the other people of our community are? So now I can hand it back to you.
For myself, I just wanted to say that I look for opportunity. I look to get involved. Here in the New York area, there are women that are organizing. Mama Donna Hennis comes to mind. She does a blessing band, which I get involved with. She also does open rituals, public open rituals, which I love to give my energy to. We have a tremendous opportunity on Halloween, on Samhain, to bless the streets of New York City, and the Blessing Band is the first group that goes out from the Greenwich Halloween Parade. So we get to literally bless millions of people on the sidewalks of New York City at the crossroads on Samhain, which is tremendously powerful. I join organizations. Currently, I'm on the board of the Association for the Study of Women in Mythology, who are hosting conferences and symposiums all around the country, and we're trying to bring women together from all around the world for scholarship, goddess scholarship, either academic or independent scholarship, and really tries to make an effort to reach out to people. I lend them my experience. That's what I get to do. It's like I have a talent, and this is how I get to priestess. We all, I agree with the fact that priestesses end up doing a lot of the work because it has to be done, right? I have been the one scraping wax off the floor, after everybody's gone, just to make sure that we get invited back, because space is important, creating sacred space is important. So, just getting involved and looking for opportunities. I go roaming around and I look for the goddess. I call her the lady. That's my pet name for her. I want to, where's the lady? Am I going to find her where I go? And I look for opportunities. And both on an individual level and a group level. I participate. I go to the Michigan Women's Music Festival. I participate in the spiritual community there. I'm generating circles, doing workshops, along with Ruth, as who's, in my opinion, the sort of the de facto high priestess of that community at the moment, having taken the reins up after Kay Gardner passed, and a lot of, as she was right to say, a lot of women are passing, but women are stepping up, and one of my jobs is to make sure to just make connections. Like, that's what I want to do. If someone's having questions, like, oh, I know someone, let me introduce you. Those types of things are also connective, priestessing archetypal things.
Mm-hmm. So one of the ways that I've created community is it's been going for about 15 years now. I call it my Wild Women group, and I collect women. And I use a tool called the Meeting Wizard that sets up, when everybody can meet. I wait till there's a critical mass, maybe 10 to 12 people every month or 6 weeks. We give ourselves a mini retreat during the day. Somebody leads, we have an opening circle, somebody leads a morning session. We have a great potluck, vegan, gluten-free, fantastic organic lunch, and then somebody leads an afternoon session, and then we, close with something. And over the years, everybody has brought their gifts, whether it's Zentangle or Feng Shui or art or music or just all kind of things, chakra work, healing work, past lives, everything that anybody has learned or gone to a workshop, they come and they lead it in this group. And I have an email list that you don't even have to come to the group. You can just be on the email list, drop in once a year. It's an open group, yet it feels like a container. Someone said to me when she walked in for the first time, she said, I didn't know any of those people there, but I felt like I was coming into the soup. There's an energy that's been created because it's just been going on. And I do it because not only do I need it, but they all need it, and then we can kind of go back into the world and do what it is that we need to do. So we have this sort of ritual retreat day that I just take it on as service. I'm the keeper of the flame, and that's my offering. I did want to sing a little bit of a song based just on Artemis, what you said. So Shekhinah is, we're talking about coming to the goddess, and so when I discovered Shekhinah as the indwelling presence or the feminine divine, it was like, oh my God, that's what I've been looking for. So she's been my muse, and this Holy Shekhinah is the name of this song, and I'm just going to sing you a couple verses of it. It's part of a play, actually, well, it's a theatrical piece, and it's not really a play, but it's an interactive, mystical, theatrical piece that I wrote called Kabbalah the Musical. And I have a group of priestesses who there's about 4 or 5 of us that perform this in the Philadelphia Fringe Festival primarily. We'll go to a synagogue if they book us and they're brave enough. But I do it also to kind of collect the sparks. I put the art out there and people that are drawn to it. It has some Kabbalah, but then I've given it this sort of feminist twist to it to bring out that we need this divine feminine presence these days. So I'm just going to, with your permission, going to sing you a couple of verses. Voices of women rise through the mist, cutting through clouds like a knife, crying out freedom and praying for peace, breathing your vision to life. Holy, holy Shekhinah, many years you've been on the run. Holy, holy Shekhinah, Yerushalayim's calling you home. The rape of your women, your children, the earth must cease if we are to survive. The sun will turn dark and the moon to blood. There'll be nary a soul left alive. Yet we'll turn evil to good and sadness to joy. We'll find light in the faces of our friends. Not by sword, nor by might, but by spirit we'll make amends. Holy, holy Shekhinah, many years you've been on the round. You can sing this with me. Holy, holy Shekhinah, Yerushalayim's calling you home. We'll gather our power and sing out our song. Take back the night and the day. Banish despair and charge up our souls. Shekhinah will show us the way. Holy, holy Shekhinah, many years you've been on the road. Holy, holy Shekhinah, Yerushalayim's calling you home.
Nice, thank you.
If nothing else, I feel like the role of the priestess today is to hold out the hope and the courage that we have the power to change something. There would sink into that despair over everything, and we have to hold out the hope and the courage that we can change it.
Yeah, I feel like my job as a priestess is carry the candle, to keep walking forward and carry the candle, because times can seem really dark, and but we're all together, and there is, you know, we're out there. I know that some of the women on the line and other women who have emailed feel that they're alone. They are not alone. A lot of women feel the same way about what's happening. I was blessed to meet the estimable Dr. Jean Shinoda-Bolin recently in San Antonio, and she gave me the blessing with the other women in the room to, you know, we can carry our light and carry our path even in the face of failing. That is our task, to just continue to carry our faith, keep talking, keep networking, keep speaking up. There's a lot of forces out there that would like to silence the view, but it is really important, as Rayzel says, to just and do it and have fun. I mean, the other thing is have fun. We get to be free from a lot of constraints, and that can be a lot of fun. You know, to make sure that we incorporate fun in and joy in the work that we do. You know, I take these, you know, lessons to heart about being very radical and speaking out and, you know, making rituals that are very impactful, but we can also have a lot of fun and be together at the same time.
Yeah, I think that it's important for those that are listening to us to realize that, you know, maybe you think you are alone, and maybe you're not. Maybe there's other people near you that also think they're alone. So as Rabbi Rayzel said, you know, reach out, see if there's somebody else that would like to have a full moon circle with you. In fact, the story I have in the book is actually, it was originally called Wild Women, but it got retitled because they said we wanted it to be Priestesses, so it went to Wild Power. But in there's the story of...
It's a fun line.
Yeah, it's a very fine line. It's the story of when I was down in San Jose, Costa Rica, and we had been at the International Congress of Women, where we had women from all over the world. Incredible event. And for the final event, we had invited, the group that I was with was out in a town called Santana, and we had invited a number of the women to come back to our Centro Creativo, Creative Center, which we had there, and then we were going to have a fire ritual on full moon night. And I was priestessing for this event, and I did a journey, and then as the moon began to rise above the trees, I began howling. And so several other of the women who, you know, weren't that, you know, knew what was going on, they began howling as well. Well, some of these Costa Rican women were like, oh my God, we're going to get arrested. And, you know, and they started howling and they started crying. And they ended up crying and crying and crying. And as they're howling at the moon and crying, and of course, all the dogs in the neighborhood are howling with us. And, you know, nobody came and arrested us, and there was no, you know, big drama or anything. But afterward, I had these beautiful women coming up to me, several of them from several different places, and they said, that was the first time I ever did something like that. I didn't know you could do that. And the power that I felt, the owning that was so incredible. Now, that's a community is, you know, I mean, it's as Catholic as it gets down there. There's, you know, other than the Jesus Christos, you know, evangelistas, that it's Catholic, and even the people who go to the Jesus Cristo evangelistas, which is the evangelist church, they also go to mass. But it was incredible. I mean, we had like 75, 80 women there, and at least half of them had never been in any kind of a ritual, any kind of a full moon ritual. And they were all like, we're going to go home and we're going to do this. We're going to take this home with us. So what I'm saying is, you know, you may feel like you're alone out there, but there's other people out there that think they're alone too. So open your doors and maybe they'll come in. And you can
I have a short offering. I write a lot.
Sure.
I haven't published any, I get published just pieces here and there. I don't have any books yet published, but sure, eventually. Once I come out from playing outside in nature, I'll get to that. But I do want to offer this short poem for those who feel not a lot of hope or feeling alone. So I just want to offer that. And also, I contributed another poem that Gloria will have available to everybody, I suppose. I work a lot in riddles, we are confronted with riddles, like why are things the way they are, kind of, riddles. So the poem that I offered that will be made available to everybody is such of that type of riddle, but I do want to offer this for anyone who is feeling a little bit of a need for uplifting if they find themselves in a place. So it's pretty short. It's called Just for Today. Courage in the face of death takes a steady hand. No amount of yoga practice will prepare for the stillness required to stare it in the eyes. To let it dissemble me, which it ought to, will take more than that in sacred space. My subtle body has to catch me when I fall down and find the strength to revive my spirit. What day is today? Is it a lovely day? My loss has shattered me, and I don't know where I am nor who. But the soft breeze and playful clouds buoy me up, and I am sustained, but only just for today.
Beautiful. It's gorgeous.
I have found myself in dark places, and I am very blessed. My angels always lift me up. I'm not Christian or Catholic. My angels are my spirits around me, the things that I brought into this life, those ones that are in my interiority, who really want me to survive and continue on my path. I mean, my philosophy is, we get a hall pass, sort of, when we get into this incarnational existence, and it's my job to linger in the halls and maybe in the girls' room or something, and not turn in that hall pass for as long as possible, and to make as much mischief as I can, in the time that I have in this body, So I hope that everybody can get something from our time together, all of these things, and to join me in carrying our faith forward, our messages forward, sharing our myths and our stories, and coming together in communion, as you've been talking about, Gloria.
Yeah, it just felt like the theme of tonight was it should be community. I mean, I'm not intentionally setting it, but as you speak, the theme comes out, and that was the theme I heard between the two of you. So, Rayzel, I mean, one thing I want to say, by the way, is that obviously Tennessee lost a great country western singer when you moved away.
I just oriented my self towards spirit, and then I had to go where I had to go. I could. You're right, though. I think about, if I just stayed down there, who would I be? I wouldn't be this person. That's for sure. I wanted to say one other thing about community. I always took the rule of thumb, if I was miserable, chances are there's at least 10 more people that are. So I have to just find them and offer them. And I apologize for all these phones that are going off. This is. I wanted to just figure out how to bring this in here. I have a kid in crisis at the moment, and I'm so glad to feel connected to this bigger circle, because right now, a lot of my priestessing is taking a back step because I have to do the task that's really in front of me. So, and to parent correctly to the best of my ability, which of course we don't get any of that, right? So I have to find projects that I will stay home, that I can't actually go out a lot. So I have to do that inner work, or find that inner artist. And that's when I think I started talking before, Gloria, that I'm making this deck of Shekhinah oracle cards. It's been a 6-year labor of love. I work on them at midnight, and that's when I get my psychic space and my quiet time, and I get rewarded as an artist, and I don't feel deprived that I'm not out organizing the biggest ritual out there, and not out in the streets protesting this. I just can't do it. So, we all have to find what intersects with our lives in different ways and how to be that person, knowing that, my time will again come to be out there more in the world, doing what we need to do. But not to see it as I have the task in front of me and I need to make the most of it in the way that I can do it the best. So, I just wanted to bring that in, because all the people we were talking about that may not feel connected may have some other, pressing caretaking need. They're taking care of everybody. So to find the piece of art that nourishes the soul that they can be doing, till they're ready to go out and be connected or find their peace. So I just wanted to put that in there. The other piece that I wanted to bring in Lilith magazine, which is a Jewish feminist publication. Susan Weideman Schneider, she's the editor. She wrote about how the influx of technology in our lives and how much time we actually have to spend on that the thing that's being sacrificed is our friendships, face-to-face friendships. And, that's the thing that women and women's connection is the thing that has kept us grounded, stable, safe, sane, uplifted. And so we have to fight against that tendency too. Like, it's one thing if you have a pressing matter, but if you're going to stay home and delete emails, that's not a good enough excuse. I think that's what I'm saying.
Well, as somebody who has survived 2 sets of teenagers, my own and my grandchildren, what I want to tell you is this too shall pass. Go ahead.
From your mouth to Goddess.
You got it.
I did want to say that social media is and electronica, in this day and age, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, obviously, it's bringing us a chance to be together, but there are human connections that aren't being made. And the other thing that's getting lost is that nature is just completely disappearing. Some people would rather see animated and computer-generated images of animals than real animals and trees. And it is important for me as a priestess to commune with other sentient beings that are not human, and to hear what needs to happen and to get wisdom and to offer blessings too. I mean, that's a really, really important part of my practice, and I'm sure that I was given that close ability, being born where I was. The Sunset Cliffs was right there. To just really be a part of nature, that has always been church for me. And just those areas that I was able to explore and commune with as a child that have just been gone now. I mean, they're completely overdeveloped. So that's one of the really important things in terms of my spiritual practice. And I like to try to remember everybody, like, hug a tree. A tree has energy, listen to the grass, listen to the trees rustling, watch the bees buzz around. There are important things to do, in terms of someone who lives on a living, breathing planet. I'm not going to be pagan, I think it's important. We really, as a society, have been disconnected, with the new technology that we have been given in the last 20 years. And I always try to unplug, get out in nature and talk to other living entities that are not human.
Or even humans.
Humans are great. I don't bias humans over the other things in nature, though. I really do try to not put us at the top of the food chain. It will not serve us well in the end, I don't think.
The reason I say that is because I have a number of friends on Facebook that I don't think have any friends that are physical. In other words, they only have Facebook friends.
Right.
Because I read what they're saying and I realize that they work at home, they live at home, they have no one they live with. So they're not actually having any human contact, flesh to flesh human contact with anyone.
Right.
And there's an entirely different character when you touch someone else. I just spent 3 days with 150 people in a small room, and there was a lot of hugging going on. I mean, the thing they told us at the end of the thing was hug 100 people before you leave today. And
That's great. Well, that's membership.
Yeah, and it's a personal connection. So it's, even if you barely know the person, you've still got that physical coming together of your aura, of your energetic signatures, and it's sort of a saying, I know you are part of my tribe. And part of this is the fact that we are tribal beings. We have been tribal beings for at least 256,000 years. And we have, the identity, our identity for all that time, up until recently, has been with our tribe. And, whether it is the Jewish tribes or whether it is the hippie tribes or whether it is just, Southern Baptist tribes, God help you if that's
Land tribes.
Yeah.
Tribes.
Yeah.
Elemental, exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rayzel.
And the tribe, we now have a new tribe, the tribe of priestesses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we want you to be part.
Tribe.
We want you to be part of our tribe, but we also want you to be part of the tribe of human beings that are in your neighborhood, or that you can actually go out and have a cup of coffee with, or sit down and discuss some of the things that are going on in your life. Maybe you don't talk about the fact that you're a priestess of the goddess, or that you're studying the runes or whatever, because you feel that that's. But you know what? We're all weird underneath, and you'll be surprised whenever you start coming.
Someone told me, really, like, if it's not that necessarily you're wrong, you just might be in the wrong room, So to find the people is more important, to find your people is definitely an important, task, and it takes all of us, We are regenerating energy in the priestessing community right now. I would qualify what Rayzel said about a new thing. I think we're more regenerating it now. It's been for a while, and we're finding new ways to meet. And technology is definitely helping bring us together. I want to just encourage everybody to keep looking for those opportunities and just speaking your truth, and connecting with people and study. A big one on studying. Study, study the myths, study magic, study the Kabbalah, study anything that interests you, that rings true for you, because all those gifts, can be brought forward. And we're listening.
Yeah, I think that it's really important that we have that opportunity to grow our community, because as we grow our community, we will take care of the earth. We will take care of the children. We will take care of the people that need to be taken care of, because that is our role. I mean, it may look like our role is to take care of ourselves, but it isn't. As we move out into the community, each and every one of us, it affects the people around us, and by carrying that personhood of the priestess with us, we have the ability to change. It's like the ion, which is if you observe it, it changes its form. So we are, in a way, observing the earth and the people on it and what have you, and by looking at it, we change the form. We bring it into being. We bring it into vision. So, it's, I don't know, I just feel that that's an important thing for us to know, that just by being who we are and letting people know who we are in a safe and honored manner, it changes where we are and who we're with. And those around us that want to be with us will come to us. I mean, I have priestess girlfriends all over the world. And,
Gloria, how do we, and, Artemis too, how are we affecting the next generation? That's the one, I can go, women who've lived through a certain piece of the 60s, certain piece of the excitement of feminism, discovering the goddess, discovering their power, speaking their truth, that they're in. But I'm the ones who are going to shepherd the earth, be the spokespeople for the next generation. How's that happening?
I think it is happening. Go ahead, Artemis.
Well, I just want to say for myself, carrying whatever messages that I get and seeding those along the way. For myself, I have gained a lot of knowledge from Jewish women scholars and priestesses, mostly from since I moved to New York, because I've got to meet a lot more diverse people, obviously, than from where I grew up, and I've learned so much. For instance, Jill Hammer, I've heard her presentations and some other Jewish scholars, and I'm learning so much. So now if I'm, woman on the street and I'm hearing, a couple of Jewish women saying something that I have learned, I can interject. Like I can say, oh, well, I learned about Asherah. This is where, and point them to, the information that I heard it from, because I take notes, I pay attention, and help carry messages. It doesn't even have to be necessarily in my own faith, but if women are looking for representation of themselves, I can help with that now, because I'm learning, I'm paying attention, I'm showing up. I read Rabbi Rayzel's contributions in Stepping Into Ourselves before this, because I had not met her yet, and I found out on Monday that she's Ruth's cousin. How awesome is that? And I wanted to know, and I learned about the innate feminine energy of the Shekinah, right? That was something that I did not know. So I get to absorb information and carry that message, anywhere now, because it's in my bag of tricks, right? That's what I'm going to put in as a priestess walking a path. I get to put in all this information that I'm learning, and will disseminate it wherever I can. And as when we look at the beehive and the bees and carrying the message, and pollinating wherever we can. And I think that that's a really great metaphor. It doesn't have to be my culture necessarily, and we often have to be, sensitive to other cultures and not have any sort of colonialization go on with other cultures. But I could say, this is what I learned from these other scholars, who are Jewish scholars and priestesses, So that's one technique. And also being very gentle with the young people, because they have been bombarded with terrible, terrible messages, and to really try to not use any shaming language at all when I talk to millennials or younger. I happen to be a Gen Xer, and to really, because I know that they don't know, and to not put them down or shame them by saying, well, if you get yourself an education or something like that. It's been very important for me to remember that people want, knowledge, but they often don't know how to access it. And to be gentle with them with language, like, well, have you considered, checking out? There are women doing that. Do you want to know more? Just that kind of thing. And, it is a challenge, I agree. Because the systems that I had coming out, I was really gifted from the second wave feminists. There were bookshops, there was Amazon Sweet Shop in San Diego, we had newspapers, we were well organized, and that does not exist. There's been a systemic anti-female attack on, women's ways of being. So, most women know that women's studies programs have been decimated. I'm not in academia, so I can say that without getting in trouble. But it is a problem. So just to, trying to be understanding and, recognize that just keep talking. Just keep talking, listen. I have to listen, for women talking about things, see if I can, get involved and help. That's one of the ways that I try to do it.
Yeah, and I think that also it's important to realize that as the young ones come up, their curiosity they do go through a period of incredible egomania. And once they come out of that period,
I did.
Once they come out of that period, they generally tend to start looking around for what's around them and of what they can find that is of interest. And if they have had the right grounding, and they have the right grounding by the time they're 10 or 11 years old, to be able to look out and find something that they want to be involved in. I know that I've met at different festivals, younger women who are in their late teens to their early 30s that are tremendously interested in the goddess and tremendously interested in priestesshood. And they're not quite sure where to go with it. You know, they're still in that formative phase. They're not sure whether they want to be a mother and go out and have a bunch of babies, or do they want to be, a lawyer and go and fight for civil liberties. But they're in that formative stage. But they do look at what is available, and what is available is so incredibly vast at this point. I think the option is there to find it, and I think that that's the best answer I can give for the next generation and for your question. What is your answer?
We've really been able to reclaim a lot of archetypes. We have a lot to offer now, thanks to the hard work of a lot of women that have come before us. Ruth mentioned, Maria Gabutes. Max Dashow is another woman who is creating a tremendous database and, compendium of images for women. And there's so many, many more. We are doing very well on the reclaiming effort, and, really bringing back into the dialogue, that there are women and women's roles in the spiritual life, in all walks of spiritual life.
Max Dashow will be on the 30th of July, and she is going to be doing a presentation. She has requested that.
I would imagine. I love her presentations. It just, my mind just opens up, like a sponge whenever Max is around. So
yeah.
Good for you getting her.
But I want to go back to Rabbi Rayzel, who asked the question, and ask you, what is your answer? What do we do for the young ones?
I'm struggling with it. I don't know. I don't have it. That's why I'm asking you the question. Right. I don't have it. I mean, I'm trying to impact one daughter now, one soul at a time. If I do that, then maybe that'll work, because who knows what ripple effect that will have. So we each have to do the work that's called to us right before us, and maybe that's my work. Take on one soul at a time, not the transformative, greater vision. Just do, what's in front of me that I'm supposed to be doing at this moment. Like, that's the process of discernment. Okay, is this my work? What is calling me right now?
Mm-hmm.
And have that be the, what I'm fully engaged in and passionate about and loving to do and being of service about. And it's one kid at a time, then maybe that's it. As letting go of some of my grand visions of how women would be running the world already, and we'd have a goddess priestess for the president, and we wouldn't be having the battles over the birth, whether we get insurance coverage for birth control, whatever. Like, why is this still happening? But maybe, it's part of where we're going with this, and maybe the next generation, if we impact one or two really strong voices, there'll be a sea change at some point. I'm waiting for it. And I think it's been, waves as opposed to a tsunami.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe the tsunami would be too much. I mean, I'd have to.
There is the 40% by 2020 movement in Europe, which it looks like it's going to become law, which is that by the year 2020, all publicly traded companies will have to have 40% of their board will be women.
Wow.
That's good. Make policy. Policy is a way to affect change. That's one way. And organizing, the 5th conference on women is beginning to get organized. If anybody wants to get involved with that, Dr. Bolin would love people to get on board with that. 1 Billion Rising is another organization. There are now, conferences and other groups that are organizing, and they're available if anybody wants to, me to help them find anything, you can always connect with me by my email. If it's artemis@pipeline.com, it's pretty simple, like pipeline, like the Alaskan pipeline, artemis@pipeline.com. If anybody has any questions and wants to, help connecting with anybody, I'm, can do that. That's what I like to do. So please reach out.
Okay. And also, these lovely ladies are part of our membership group, as are all of the priestesses who are in the book Stepping Into Ourselves. And I do invite you to become part of the membership group. It's a very small fee, and it's basically paying expenses. So it is an opportunity to interact with other women who are like you, and like me, and like Heather, and Rabbi Rayzel, and all the other wonderful women that we have. Basically, that there are, an opportunity here, and whether it's an opportunity to make public notice or make private contributions with our children. I look at myself. I have got a granddaughter who has 2 small children, and her 2 small children also have 4 small goats and a pack of ducks and some, I don't know what all she's got at this point. She's really going through the mothering phase. And, but she's tending the land. I mean, who would have thought? She's basically out in the country and tending the land, growing food. 21 years old. And so there is that, that call within some of the girls, some of the women. And I do agree, but so now we are at 7:06, which it's 10:06 where you are, so I want to honor that. I mean, we are in the middle of the week, and you probably have work tomorrow, or daughters that are going to get you up at very early. So I want to give you each an opportunity to say, something at last as what's going on for you, or anything that you would like to invite people to be part of that you're currently, if you're organizing or not organizing. Heather, why don't you go ahead first?
Let's see. Well, my mind, I'm 2 weeks for leaving for the Michigan Women's Music Festival. Mm-hmm. So, that's a tremendous event, and if women can get to that festival ever, it's a life-changing experience. It's certainly a radical space. And I have some, workshops and rituals that I'm, working on, in preparation for that. I'm also writing, so I'm, doing my writing thing. Somebody said that the housekeeper, like the home tender, like I manage my household. So I'm busy right now. Summertime's a great time for me, and gardening. And the Association for the Study of Women in Mythology, which I've mentioned before, will be having their next symposium is going to be in Portland next year in April 11th, I think, is the date that was set for that. So, I'm working with them and helping, them get organized for that, buying spaces like that. It's kind of what I do for a living. And just looking for opportunity, taking some personal trips coming up. So.
Great, thank you. And thank you for your organizing. I've done a lot of that, and I know what it takes. And Rabbi Rayzel, you have something to show us.
I thought I would just pick a card.
Oh, thank you, yes.
I'm going to have to tell you how to pick a card. These are my cards.
Amazing.
They're all paper cuts. That was the red thread. The water, the angel of dreams. So these are part of, I'll show you a couple more. These are part of, here's one you might resonate with. Wisdom, giving birth, dancing, enjoy. This is my baby at the moment. Shekhinah is the rainbow, And so this is the show that I'm doing, Kabbalah the Musical. I do an oracle reading as part of the show with the audience. And I'm doing 2 performances in the Philadelphia Fringe Festival in September 7th and 14th. If anybody's in the neighborhood, please drop in, Philadelphia Fringe. And I'd like to sing you a song that is in the show, but it's sort of, it's where I am now. So if you ask, and I wrote it when I met Ruth Barrett, who I'd never met before. We knew we were cousins before at the Women in Mythology conference when it was in Pennsylvania. I went up to meet her, and this song came out after that meeting. So this is, where I am. When opening up to the mystery in the fog and the night and the rain, when the ancient stones are speaking, we find the path again. When Shekhinah is calling to step out of your comfort zone, the way is revealed into the light, leaping to the unknown. Open the infinite gate of myth and mastery, seeking a voyage of wisdom, facing destiny, in the vision of a fire that is burning, in the land and the forest and the tree. The oracle knows death and rebirth, reminds us to be free. In our holy bodies and our mother, in the water and on the land, from the depths of our souls comes a symbol, surrender to what you have planned. We trust the power of the sacred signs. We learn lessons along the way, finding the voices beyond the words. Listen to what they say. Listen to what they say.
Thank you so much. That I
What a
look forward.
blessing.
I look forward to seeing that someday. And by the way, I'm very interested in the 5th Women's Congress. So that's something I was involved with before, and I would very much be interested in that. So if you could send me some information.
Lori, are you going to be posting all these links to all these different things? Should we just post them all on the Facebook page?
If you put them on the Facebook page or give them to me, then I will post them. Okay. As I get the membership site up and running, we will have a place where we can post all the different events and things that are coming up and people's events that they're going to be having and when you're going to be having your wonderful presentation and maybe I can get there and do some video. I want to thank you all for being here this evening and honor the fact that we have an audience that has managed to stay with us the entire time.
Thank you, Gloria.
Yeah.
Thank you for your work.
I want to let you know that on Friday, we're going to have Bryn Mawr Hibbs, who is from Eugene, Oregon, and Vajrama, who is an actress and singer actually she lives in Wolf Creek now. Both of them very strong, very interesting. Bree is a yoga instructor and has a company called Sol Alchemy. I'm always a sucker for anybody who has anything around alchemy. And both of them are going to be on this Friday evening. I hope you can, join us and if you can't, it will be videoed and it will be available over the weekend for free on YouTube. I always do that. We are coming down to the last few episodes, but we have gone over the middle. We've gotten over the hump, so to speak. I want to thank you all for being here and thank you for hanging in there. And whenever technology was a problem and whenever the technology wasn't a problem. So I love you all. I think you're fabulous. And go and be priestesses in your community, too. Reach out.
Thanks, we'll do just that.
Yeah. And good night. And I'll see y'all all on Friday. Good evening.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you.
Thank you.